Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you and send my warmest regards from the building of the European Parliament in Brussels, where the subjects connected with data protection and privacy are on the top of the agenda of the European legislators. I'm sorry I cannot take part in the conference myself in Gdansk, which I really will miss a lot, since this is my home university. This is the place where we started our work with the IT law and data protection, also together with the Chicago-Kent College of Law from Chicago. That's one more time to discuss these transatlantic issues of the privacy protection, IT law and the copyright law in the University of Gdansk. I would like to pass you some basic messages concerning the data protection in the European Union and the transatlantic dialogue that we have at the moment in the scope of the problem of the big data. Well, the big data as a notion will be touched many times, I guess, during the whole conference. I'm not going to go to any kind of definition of that, because everybody of us defines it differently, and everybody of us thinks that this is the phenomenon which is right now with us, which is going to be more and more important. But at the same time, it does not differ from the things that were in the past as far as the fears concerning data protection and privacy protection are concerned. When the privacy protection law started in Europe in the 70s and 80s as a part of administrative and constitutional law, the fears were the same. We thought we are losing the control over the data which are processed in the big knowledge management systems. And knowledge management system is one more thing that I would like to talk to you today. The mere fact that something is possible does not mean that it has to be done. The mere fact that some technologies are in use do not mean that we can use them for any purpose that we want. And at the same time, we are quite concerned about the values that are the foundations of the European system at the moment. And we don't want the technologies to change the values that rule our culture for already dozens of years, or we may even say throughout the whole 20th century and 21st century. If not, then we would like to talk a while about the challenges that are faced by knowledge management systems in 21st century. I'm doing it from the position of the European Data Protection Supervisor, who is the supervising authority of the European institutions as far as data protection is concerned. There's no hierarchical structure in the European Union which says that there is some agency on the top and then there are the other ones which are above that. There are actually 28 data protection commissioners in 28 European countries, and in some of them there are also the data protection authorities on the provincial level, like it is in Germany, for example, where each of every 16 lands have its own data protection authority. And the European Data Protection Supervisor is another body which has been created by the European Union in order to supervise the processing of the personal data in the European institutions, starting from the Parliament, throughout the Commission, throughout the Council, and finishing with all small agencies that may exist in the so-called European bubble. So, with a little simplification, we may say that if you have a problem with the data protection in the hotel that you stay in Brussels, then of course you go to the Belgian authority who is responsible for that. And at the same time, if you have the problems with the processing of data by any of the EU agencies, this is the European Data Protection Supervisor who is responsible for processing the complaints against these institutions. At the same time, European Data Protection Supervisor is an advisor of the European institutions in all the processes which are connected with the legislation and which are going on in the European Union. And this is the most important activity at the very moment if we think about the future of the big data, if we think about the future of the legal solutions as far as the IT systems are concerned. The European Data Protection Supervisor has created this year the strategy for next 5 years, and in this strategy we have 3 main objectives that we want to deal with, and one of them is the fact that data protection goes digital. It does not mean that the data goes digital. Data went digital already dozens of years ago. And it's a mere fact that we are processing the information about the people using the electronic equipment, using electronic devices, using the scientific and knowledge devices that are created for this purpose. When we say that data protection goes digital, it means that law is not enough. Law is the very good basis and very solid basis for the things which are going on right now. And as far as privacy protection is concerned, that's definitely one of the foundations of what we do. But at the same time, we precisely know that what really matters is how do you protect the personal data, how do you protect the privacy of the customers, citizens, and also your employees inside the information systems. So whenever you try to build any kind of information system, no matter if it is on the very small scale in the small company or it is the large scale system which gathers the data about millions of people, you have to take privacy into consideration from the very beginning of creating such a project. It also means that you have to stay with this privacy impact assessment throughout the whole life cycle of such an information system. As I said, big data is nothing new under the sun, nihil novi sub sole. But at the same time, we have to say that the bigger the data is, the bigger is the responsibility. Big data means big responsibility. If big data means big responsibility, the question is who is actually the one who is responsible? Well, there are the studies which shows that while 75% of customers in the United States think that their data is owned by the companies or the processors to whom it was transferred, only 25% of the people in Germany are of the same opinion. They rather think that they are the ones who should manage the data, or at least to know where the data is stored. And I guess my home country, Poland, is somewhere in the middle of that, but definitely the idea of information self-determination is in the heart of the system that we created after 1989. If you look at the constitution of the Republic of Poland, Article 51 of this constitution says about this self-determination and says about the possibility to have a full control over the data which is stored and which is processed. The data processed in the information systems, in the knowledge management systems, that's something more than just the storing of it, that's something more than just using it for one purpose for which it was originally collected. Usually the data is used for many purposes, and usually there are quite complicated algorithms that enable us to use the different information about the same data subject in order to create something which is called the profile. Profiling is the automatic process of gathering and processing the data and attributing some features to the person according to the results of the work inside the knowledge management system. So is predictive analysis something which is a reality at the moment? Yes, it is. It will be more and more at the time of big data. It will be more and more at the time of Internet of Things. And more data will be gathered and stored and processed in order to get the profiles. Is it good? Yes, it is good. Definitely it is good. We like it. We like the fact that we are sometimes assessed and the things which are proposed to us are better fit into our real expectations. But at the same time, we like to know how is it done, or at least to know for which purposes it is used. What is then the risk for the object of the analysis? Well, the main risk is actually the kind of discrimination that we may face, and we probably will not know why is it actually happening. Does it mean that we have to be used to this kind of predictive analytics? Yes, definitely, we have to be used to that, but we have to also to take a kind of control over that. I would recall the motto from the coat of arms of the city that you are in, Gdansk. Gdansk in its coat of arms has a motto, nec temere, nec timide, which in Latin means without a fear, but not too brave. And this is actually what we should do with this kind of predictive analytics. We cannot be afraid of that, but we have to really know what we are going to do, and we should not be too brave inventing the new ways of processing the things, especially if we think about so-called predictive profiles. Profiles which use not only the data which is 100% sure, but also the data which is only statistically possible, statistically correlative one with another, and probably means that there is some additional feature of the person, or there will be the additional feature of the person in the future. Is the correlation something that we can rely on? Well, partly yes, partly no. We definitely have to remember that correlation does not mean immediately the causation. So the fact that the two features are similar one to another do not mean that they are following one of the other. Well, there are some I would say, satiric examples of that, but it has been proved that, for example, United States spending on science and space technology is correlative with the number of suicides by hanging, strangulation and suffocation, which of course is just a satiric example of the correlation that may exist. The per capita cheese consumption correlates very well with the number of people who died becoming tangled in their bedsheet, which of course, once again, does not say that there is any kind of real causation between these two things. These are the things which are satiric. But somewhere between the satiric and the real world is another scientific research that has been done in the States, which shows that using the felt parts under the furniture in your house is correlative with your credit payments. Meaning the ones who are putting these felt parts under the furniture seem to pay their credits better than those who don't do it. Well, I don't know if any of the credit agencies, Credit Information Bureau, has ever used this. But if they do so, I would really like to know that I'm assessed according to the question that was being asked to me by them or by another institution, by another entity. What is definitely the thing that we have to bear in mind and we have to be aware of is any kind of automatic decision which is based on the predictive profiling, which may be performed by any of the institutions, any of the entities that are collecting our data. So let me say that the transparency of the processing is something that I would put the biggest stress on. At the same time, I'm absolutely sure that transparency does not mean only the knowledge which data of me is collected, and does not mean only for which purposes it is used, but it also means that there is somebody, better me, but if not, there is some institution, there is some supervising body that they can check the algorithms that are used by the processor, by the controller, in order to process the data. Of course, checking the algorithms and getting to know about the algorithm is a very touchy thing, because at the same time, this is the core of the know-how of the institution and know-how of the entity. I hope all these things will become also the part of your discussion during the conference that starts in Gdansk at the moment. And I would like to invite you to keep track on what's going on the European level with it, with the information from the Working Party of Article 29, which gathers all data protection authorities from all over Europe, but also the opinions of the European Data Protection Supervisor. Let me drive your attention especially to this September opinion on ethics in the world of big data. That's the one which shows that the real basis of our processing of our data is the ethical approach of those who are collecting the data, those who are storing data, and those who are processing it. Ethics and a good working penal law is probably the best way of dealing with IT systems. While we have the law, which is quite robust in Europe, and which is going to be better from next year on when the general regulation on data protection will be passed, we still need a discussion about ethics. Let me also wish you to have the very nice conference about this subject in Gdansk, and have a good results of that that will help us to deal with the problem of privacy in the nearest future. Thank you very much.